Okay, so could you talk a little bit about your work? Since it's so varied as far as how you decide to express your art, would you mind giving us a few, sound bites about your work? Sure. The usual sound bites. I'm interested in using the body. I'm interested in language and the different representations of those things, or in the implications of body and language and culture in space. I usually choose the medium that I find most appropriate to the concept that I'm addressing. The concept's usually shaped by my personal history, my experiences, and my immediacies. Video is something that I find quite powerful. I think again it relates back to that, childhood story about wanting to be on TV. I think in graduate school I started working on video. I did some acting in college, but very minimal. And I think a lot of the videos that I did, they were sort of my interpretation of like little MTV vignettes that were really popular in the 80s and 90s. And I feel like in a way I started making YouTube videos before YouTube existed, where it would just be me, sort of like this, me and a camera, and something going on. And in fact, I think there's only one of my video art pieces that I actually have in my YouTube account, and it's taken me quite a long time to get a YouTube account. When I got people like, oh, nobody's doing YouTube anymore, I was like, I don't care. I like the recognition. I'm not trying to be cutting edge. So I think video has the potential to tap into the unconscious. It's a very psychological medium, and I'm really attracted to it. And I think today it's a language that people can really have access to. I think something like painting and drawing and sculpture, which are things that I enjoy doing for different reasons, they're so intimidating to a lot of people. And I think video is very seductive, and because it is familiar, it's something that you live with it every day. So when you see that in a place like a museum or gallery, you feel that it's okay to approach. And then I think it really twists your head and then really makes you, hopefully, if it is good, watch television in a different way. Painting and drawing, I think they go back to my my earlier expressions of just being really instinctive and getting messy and dirty, but then having something to show, which is difficult with video and other ephemera like performance and things like that. I think, a lot of my drawing and painting have this indexical quality, which I think is something I carry over from photography. And, when I was in college, my first major was architecture, but I realized that I couldn't draft well, even though now I know that that's not what architecture is about. It's about space and psychology. So I really wanted to be a painting major, but I was heavily discouraged by my parents, especially my father, and I think he was sort of embarrassed actually, so I decided to major in photography. Through many hoops that I've jumped through in my life, eventually I got my master's degree, I got a green card, and now I have tenure in my job, and I realized, I have nothing holding me back now. I can do whatever I want. I have a job, I am a resident in the country that I want to live in right now, and I have no excuses. I don't have to do or be anything that anybody wants me to do. So that was sort of an impetus for me to get back to painting and drawing, which I've been doing more frequently in the last 2 years, even though I've been doing painting and drawings throughout my art career. Does that make any sense? Sure, thanks. It's interesting what you said about video, because this brings me to my next question, which is it's in regards to the rumor mill of Facebook. It seems like there's a group on Facebook that's interested in having you participating in that Bravo show called Work of Art, The Next Great Artist. I want to hear your impressions about that group, or your instincts about what do you think about that, and what do you think that could do to your career? Aren't you afraid that could ruin your career? So yeah, just tell me what you think. Okay, I'm a big fan of reality television. I think it's fascinating, and not because it's real, but just there's something that I find quite captivating. I think it is part of it has to do with my real curiosity in knowing people that I don't know and wanting people in my life, and so maybe that's what and the idea of the confessional. I think I find that extremely. I find it seductive, and I find it engaging, and I find it compelling, and I find it powerful. I also think that that's not really hasn't been totally tapped into in an art way. I think a few people have done it in very interesting ways, but it's something that even reality itself hasn't fully dealt with in a more overt way. So I've been wanting to be in reality for as long as reality has been around, but with shows like Survivor, I'm not particularly fit or athletic or competitive. I thought about The Amazing Race, but I never found, everybody that I thought I could travel with would be a problem. Let's see what else. Big Brother is just a big waste of time. I'm just not gonna be drinking with a bunch of straight white people over the summer in some stupid house, And let's see. Project Runway, I think, came the closest to in Top Chef, or things that I thought I could do because they were creative in nature, and it was about somebody expressing what they believe their talent should be. And but I can't cook and I can't sew. So when Work of Art came around, I was like, oh my god, oh, actually I did hear, the angels. And I think the Deitch Project in New York at one point had some sort of a cable, public access cable show about reality artists. And a friend of mine that at the time was living in New York City, he was once interviewed, I think by MTV, about being in it. This is a long time ago in the late 90s. And so those are things that I thought about. And then when the show premiered, I don't know how to describe her. I think if Neo and I lived in the same city, we'll be extremely good friends, and I adore her, and I think there's definitely a connection between us. I would say we are like acquainted friends, somewhat professional friends, and actually she had come to Detroit in January to give a talk. I believe it was January, and it was sort of coincidence that right after that, the promos on Bravo came, and she's a fascinating human being and an incredible artist. And we hung out and we talked a little bit, and then later on I found out about the show. So after watching it, and half of it I was out of the country when it was being shown, so I had to catch up when I came back.